And I thought, well, just for my peace of mind, I'll make an appointment with my doctor when I get home and have it checked out. And I'm very glad that I did. That was the first thing I did the next morning. Is I thought it'd be a quick doctor's visit, and he said, well, you know, it is kind of questionable. I'm not sure if I really know what's going on. I'm going to send you to Dr. Bertelsen, who is a breast surgeon. So he got on the phone. He got me an appointment within a couple of hours. I went to Dr. Bertelsen's office, and he said, Peggy, don't tell me where the lump is. Let me see if I can find it. He examined me for about 10 minutes. He said, okay, I give up. Show me where it is. So that's, you know, a story I think that's real important for women to know. You know, mammograms aren't 100%. Your checkup isn't 100%, and neither is your self-breast exam, but those 3 tools are very powerful, and that extra third step really got me in the right direction. Well, it ended up being a whole day of doctors. I thought that was going to be just a quick visit, but Dr. Bertelsen felt like it seemed questionable to him, so he sent me for a needle biopsy. And I did all that in one day, and by the end of the day, the results from the needle biopsy came back questionable. So he said, you know, just for our peace of mind, we're going to go in and do a biopsy in a couple of days. And I thought, okay, I can do that. And he said, it's probably going to be fine. And I went in and had the biopsy. He actually even showed it to me during the surgery and said it looked like healthy tissue. Everything looks fine. And I went, I had a performance to do the end of the week in Boston, and I said, well, am I going to be okay to go there? And he said, oh, sure. You know, you may be a little bit sore, but I went and ended up skating in Boston in a show like less than a week after my biopsy. But I had a Vera Wang dress to wear, so it was like I had to go. So it made me feel a little bit better, but my husband kept in touch with the doctors while I was gone, and he found out before I got home that it was malignant. And I ended up, when I got home, having to go back to surgery again. I ended up having a lumpectomy, and they took out some of the lymph nodes, and I think that was one of the scariest parts is waiting for those results, because if it's going to, travel anywhere, it would go into the lymph nodes. And we kind of held our breath, but I was very fortunate that it hadn't traveled to the lymph nodes. I ended up just recovering from the surgery and having 6 weeks of radiation. Now, the doctors ended up being my coaches during the cancer. And, it was a very humbling disease, to get that diagnosis. And, you don't survive the Olympics by not having the right coaches and surrounding yourself with good, positive people, and you don't survive cancer that way either. You have to surround yourself with a good team that you trust and make good decisions for yourself. I think sometimes when you go through something like that, I know I learned a whole lot from the Olympic experience, and I learned a whole lot from my cancer experience. You find out sometimes you're stronger than you ever thought you could be during times like this. About 2 weeks ago, I got to spend some time with Nancy Brinker, who her sister Susan G. Komen, she started the Race for the Cure, and I got to sit next to Nancy at a dinner, and she is just an incredible lady. And I must tell you that her new book called Promise Me, I'm just reading it right now, and it really gives you the big picture of how far we have come with educating and awareness and technology and being more open about breast cancer. We're making huge advances, and she's going to be honored in Washington, D.C., October 16th at the Kennedy Center for 30 years of the promise she made to her sister. She's an incredible lady, and I feel honored that I got to spend some time with her, and I'm so motivated to keep this cause going. And you guys are doing a great job here by spreading the message and coming out for this luncheon today. I applaud you for that. I really do. Winning the Olympics changed my life forever. I've learned that life has a way of taking us all on a journey, and I'd like to share with you today some of the stories and some of the journey and some of the lessons that I've learned along the way. Because I wasn't born with confidence and perspective. I learned my life lessons from my skating, from my marriage, from being a parent, and my experience with breast cancer. For me, you know, standing on the podium in 1968 at 19 years old, you know, I wasn't standing there thinking about opportunities in the future. And when they played the national anthem for me, my mind wasn't on endorsement deals and television contracts. Those opportunities back in 1968 didn't even exist for athletes. My thoughts were centered on my family and my coach and all the people that had helped me realize my dream, and they all worked very hard to help me. And the relief that I felt of not letting them down was enormous. And the last thing on my mind when I stood there accepting the medal was sports as a lifelong career. Because in the beginning, I was a real shy little girl. I was afraid to even raise my hand in class. I grew up in California. I was one of 4 girls in my family. We lived a very simple existence. My dad was a newspaper pressman. And even though we struggled financially, my parents exposed all of us girls to sports and art and music and dance. And it wasn't until my dad took us to the ice skating rink one time, and I remember stepping on the ice, and it was just like magic to me. I was kind of the little tomboy. I mean, I love baseball. I love playing golf with him. I really love being outdoors, and it was just magic for me to step on that ice. And it wasn't magic to my sisters, but it gave me a little bit of confidence about myself that I could do something that other people couldn't do as easily. So I kept going back and taking lessons, and I had only been skating for less than a year, and my coach at the time thought I should enter a competition. So I entered the juvenile girls competition at Sutro's Baths in San Francisco. I'd never seen competition before in my life, and I went out there and I just skated and I won. It was like, oh, that was fun. It was really great. But that competition qualified me 2 weeks later to compete in the Pacific Coast region, and it was down in Los Angeles, so my parents drove me down there. And I went out there and skated like I thought I had skated in San Francisco, but the outcome was very different. I came in dead last. And I thought, oh, this is like embarrassing. It made me pay attention. And I knew that I didn't want to have that happen again. And here it was, my first month of competitive figure skating. I had the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. But I knew I liked winning better, and I think that that lit my competitive fire. So I kept on skating. I had made it to the national championships in the novice and the juniors. I'd come in second in novice and third in the juniors. And in 1964, when I was 15 years old, I qualified to compete at the senior level. And, you know, I was not the favorite. I was just kind of unknown. I'd barely qualified to even compete in that level. And I went out and I came in third in the school figures, and then went out to free skate, and I ended up winning the competition.